Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something we're all a part of, something so big and all encompassing that we barely even notice it's there. We're talking about society. It's the framework of our entire lives, the connections, the rules, the way we all fit together. But what is it, really? Let's get into it.
Think about it for a second. It's a really big question, right? We're a planet with billions of people, and yet somehow we manage to form these huge, incredibly complex networks. So what's the invisible glue? What is it that actually holds us all together? That's the big mystery we're going to try to unravel today. All right, first things first. Before we can understand the whole puzzle, we got to look at the pieces. Let's start with the absolute basics and make sure we're all on the same page. What do we even mean when we use the word society? So right away, we see that a society isn't just a bunch of people living in the same place. No, it's the network of relationships between them. It's this living, breathing system that's always changing. And it's built on a really simple idea. We can do way more together than we could ever do on our own. It's all about interdependence. Now, let's zoom in a little bit. If society is this huge, sprawling web, then a community is a much tighter, more close-knit part of that web. Think about your neighborhood, your town, or any group that shares a culture. This is where that giant idea of society becomes real, personal, and something you can actually feel. And this is where it gets really clear. Society is this big, abstract idea, right? It's kind of hard to point to. But a community? That's concrete. It's a specific place with specific people. And check out the feeling. Society is based on a practical need to rely on each other. But a community? That's powered by a strong emotional sense of we. It's about belonging. Okay, so we've got a handle on what society is today. But, it didn't just pop into existence. The way we live now is the end result of thousands and thousands of years of change and evolution. So let's take a quick trip back in time and see how some of the great thinkers tried to map out that journey. People have always been trying to figure out how societies work. But this guy, Auguste Comte, was one of the first to say, hey, let's study this like a science. He's known as the father of sociology for a reason. He believed that societies evolved in their thinking, starting with explaining everything through gods, then moving to abstract ideas, and finally landing on science and observation. And then you've got Karl Marx. He had a completely different and, a hugely influential take on all this. For Marx, the engine driving all of history was economics and class conflict. As you can see here, he saw society moving through these stages, each one defined by who owns the stuff, the means of production, and the struggle between the owners and the workers. Now, Marx's view is a really powerful one, but it's not the only story out there. History is complicated, right? Other thinkers looked at the same timeline and saw a different pattern, one that was less about class conflict and more about technology and culture. So, thinkers like Lewis Henry Morgan and E.B. Tyler came up with this simpler three-stage model. Now, using the terms of their day, they saw a journey from a savage society of hunters to a barbaric one with farming and metal tools, and finally to a civilized society run by logic and science. The key driver for them wasn't conflict, it was technology and innovation. And that brings us right back to today. Because of all that history, it's no surprise that we don't just have one kind of society. The world is this incredibly diverse place. So sociologists have come up with a few ways to classify all the different societies we see around us, just to make sense of it all. Probably one of the most common ways to sort societies is to look at their engine, their economy. How a society produces and distributes stuff has a massive effect on just about everything else. And generally speaking, you can see three main models. In a capitalist society, it's all about private ownership and free markets. In a socialist one, the state is in control of production. But honestly, most countries today are somewhere in the middle, a mixed society that combines private business with things like public schools and healthcare. It's a balancing act. But hey, economics isn't the whole story. Another really interesting way to look at it is by focusing on lifestyle. How do people actually live their day-to-day lives? How do they make a living? This gives us a totally different perspective. And what's cool about this is it almost looks like another timeline, doesn't it? It basically tracks the journey of human work. We went from being nomadic hunter-gatherers to herding animals to the huge shift of farming, then the smoke and steel of the Industrial Revolution, all the way to our modern world, which is so focused on information and services that we call it post-industrial. So it doesn't matter if a society is capitalist, agrarian, or post-industrial. What are the fundamental things it needs to actually work? What is that invisible glue we were talking about at the very beginning? Let's break down those essential ingredients.
Here is a fantastic way to think about it. A school is basically a society in miniature. I mean, you've got a diverse group of people, you've got rules you have to follow, and everybody, from the students to the teachers to the staff, has to cooperate to make the whole thing run. The exact same principles apply to the big wide world. And here they are, the core elements. For any society to really thrive, its people need to feel like they belong. They have to feel safe. There has to be cooperation, a sense of unity, a feeling of shared responsibility for the common good. And maybe, just maybe, the most important one of all is empathy, that ability to try and see the world through someone else's eyes.
Okay, this brings us to our final, and honestly, probably the most important section. We've been talking about society like it's this big, abstract machine, but a society isn't a machine. It's just people. It's us. It's you.
And this is the key takeaway. Society isn't something that just happens to us. We are the ones building it every single day with all our actions, big and small. We are the architects. So the real question is, what's our part to play in all this? This right here is basically the blueprint. And it's so much more than just following the law. It's about actively cooperating. It's about showing up for your community when things are great and when they're tough. It's about basic respect, getting involved and actively working to build that unity and goodwill we've been talking about. So, we'll end on this thought. We've defined society. We've traced its history. We've figured out its core ingredients. But the thing is, society is never finished. It's always changing, always evolving. The world you're living in is not the same as the one your parents knew, and it will be different for the next generation. The only real question left is, as one of its architects, how will you shape it?